At the dawn of the 1990s, it was becoming apparent to the railroads that more horsepower was needed due to high increase in traffic. Along with this, the heavy coal traffic during the 90s had most of the heavy haulers on coal duty, with up to 4 to 5 units on a single coal train. The railroad saw this as absolutely intolerable and approached EMD and GE to produce a monstrous high horsepower engine that could pretty much do the job of 3, thus kicking off the horsepower race of the 1990s. EMD initially saw success with the EMD SD80 Mac, but just like its bigger brother, the SD90 Mac, which was arguably a worse failure than the SD50, it would be overshadowed by GE's monster engine. GE teamed up with German engineering company Deutz MWM and took a look at their most recent locomotive, the AC6000CW, and added new electronics, extended fuel tanks, a longer frame, a new massive 6,250 horsepower engine, and the most physical difference, large extended radiators to help cool off this massive engine. The first prototype of the new monstrous AC6000s, GE6000, also known as the Green Machine or the Hulk by GE employees, was first built in December of 1995, with 2 sister units, 6001 and 6002, coming later in the early 2000s. Upon testing with CSX in 1996, it ultimately caught the attention of the railroad, with power the East Coast rails haven't seen since the steam days.
Run! It's Godzilla!
And it was safe to say CSX was quite impressed. CSX ordered 117 units, classing them as CW60ACs, and rostering them from CSX T600 to 699 and CSX 5000 to 5016, which were classed as CW60AHs. With these beasts unleashed onto CSX rails, the once daunting coal drags and ore trains stood no chance and were at last conquered. It wasn't uncommon to see a pair of 60s on hill helper duty battling steep grades either, as they were well equipped for the task. However, the engine was too powerful for its own good at times, as they had a habit of literally ripping out couplers and tearing entire trains in half. From talking with former and current engineers and conductors on CSX's CC subdivision, they said when you had a 600 on your train, be prepared to break that train. One former engineer recalled that on hill helper duty, they ripped a train in half while trying to slow a downhill freight train. All of this on top of issues with the engine rattling the entire locomotive frame and overloaded axles leading to wheel slips that damaged the rail, eventually led CSX in the late 2000s to derate the locomotives to 4,300 to 4,400 horsepower. Nonetheless, these engines served CSX well, from trains such as the hotshot Tropicana Juice train to the dirty heavy coal drags. They had a mostly uneventful career on CSX, with only 3 incidents. CSX 671 and CSX 5006, seen here having their traction motors replaced after pretty much crapping themselves, and CSX 5000, seen here violating this Jeep's personal space. However, as time rolled on, a dark future was in store for CSX's fleet of monster engines.
With everyone's favorite railroad CEO, E. Hunter Harrison, taking over the reins of CSX in 2017, and his unsustainable push toward precision scheduled railroading, or PSR for short, these brutes were some of the first to be taken off of CSX's roster and put into storage. Some were sold off to short lines and leasing companies, most were scrapped, and now sadly, 3 remain on CSX's roster, rotting away in storage. It is currently unknown if these units will ever see the main line again as rebuilds or possibly see the tracks of a railroad museum. The units that were sold off now belong to the Arkansas and Missouri Railroad and the Western New York and Pennsylvania. A&M has one of CSX's Diversity in Motion units, 699, and it was last seen in 2020, but it is unknown about its present whereabouts. On the WNYNP, they can still be seen in active service, taking their second chance at life, with its CSX heritage still thundering on.
The CSX AC6000s were powered by a twin turbocharged General Electric 6,000 horsepower 4-cycle 7HDL16A 16-cylinder engine with a 9x10 halves bore and stroke cycle, multiple unit capability, and the ability to have dynamic braking. Minimum RPM is 450, and the maximum while under load is 1050. The 60ACs had a starting tractive effort of 188,000 pounds of force and 166,000 pounds of continuous tractive effort. These units have a GMG 201 main alternator, Model 26L Westinghouse air brakes, and 6 GEB13 AC traction motors with mechanical driven traction motor blowers between the 6-axle high adhesion trucks and the locomotive frame. With a wheel diameter of 42 inches, a turning radius of 21 degrees, and a gearing ratio of 83:20, this allows these brutes to reach a top speed of 75 miles an hour. Something pretty neat about the 60ACs is that, as far as I could tell, they're the only CSX locomotives on the roster with twin exhausts. These units had 5,500 gallons of fuel, 410 gallons of lubricants, 380 gallons of coolant, and a sand tank capacity of 55 cubic feet. Dimensions of the 60ACs are 76 feet long, 15 feet 5 inches tall, and 9 feet 11 inches wide. With a whopping weight of 216 tons, this makes it easily the heaviest engine we have ever covered on the series. The CW60ACs were initially equipped with the Nathan Airchime K5LA, with some units receiving K5Hs and the K5HL first gens. Here are some examples. The C stands for the CC wheel arrangement, 60 for the 6,000 horsepower, and AC for the AC traction. Did y'all know the CW60AC holds the world record for the longest and heaviest train ever pulled? In 2001, all 8 of Mount Newman's AC6000s were tasked with an iron ore train that was 109,938 tons across 682 cars, covering a distance of 171 miles. 2 of CSX's 60ACs were given Spirit titles, number 601, the Spirit of Waycross, and number 602, the Spirit of Maryland, with 3 additional units with numbers 699, 5000, and 5001, wearing the Special Diversity in Motion scheme. One other unit, CSX 666, the Devil's unit, was renumbered to 656 due to superstitions. Interestingly, Lionel came out with a small fleet of 5 fictional CSX heritage units, with 60 ACs being painted up into formal railroads that CSX formed, these being the Baltimore and Ohio, the Clinchfield, the Western Maryland, the Seaboard, and the Chessie system. Although CSX's fleet of monster engines were ruthlessly purged from the roster, the 6000 class of engines now live on in preservation, with GECX 6002 being donated to the Lakeshore Railroad Museum in 2022. I hope y'all enjoyed this remake of one of my most popular episodes in this series, as the original was taken down due to copyright. Let me know down in the comments what locomotive you guys want to see next. Thanks for watching, and see you out there on the high iron.